Pokemon Xenoverse is an absolutely insane fan game. Taking place in the Ildu region, the main campaign offers over 30 hours of gameplay, with DLC on top of that, with awesome Fakemon, a sound type being added and balanced in the game, unique regional forms, and an absolutely amazing story that links the main games into this one. I basically mainlined this game and it took me just over 20 hours to beat, and when I took my first pass at reducing the footage down for this video, it was still over 6 hours. So needless to say, the game is gigantic and I loved playing it. I know we normally do hardcore Nuzlockes on this channel, but I decided to play this game just as a straight run because I know that your starter is integral to the story and I didn't want to mess with that experience. So come along with me as we go through the Ildu region and become the champions. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below. The only way that I'm going to be able to grow is with your support, and I'd love to keep on playing different fan games like this in the future. But without further ado, let's get rockin'. The game opens up with our dad Versal waiting for us to be born. I don't 100% understand why he's not in the room, but I guess that's besides the point. The nurse goes ahead and brings him into the room and asks whether he thinks that we're a boy or a girl. He guesses right, and we're a boy named Soap. Skip ahead 5 years later, and we're living the life. We got parents, we got a farm, we got cows. This is awesome. We take a moment to visit our grandfather's grave, which is going to be foreshadowing for much later in the video. And then, out of nowhere, 3 different Pokeballs appear. Within them, we have our 3 starters that are integral to the story and have some really unique ways of evolving. First is Shyleon, our Grass Fairy type, Trishout, which is Fire Sound, and then Shulong, who's Water Dragon, but I go ahead and I pick Trishout before I even have a chance to look at him. After choosing our starter, a blazing white light appears. And it was all a dream. Except it wasn't a dream. Our dad's been missing for 10 years. We decide it's about time somebody goes to look for him, but our mother doesn't want us to have any part of it. She's been looking for over 10 years and neither her nor Aster have been able to find him. And she goes ahead and challenges us to a battle to prove that we can't do it. And she sends out a level 5 Jigglypuff. And I'm pretty sure the only thing that this Jigglypuff can do is put us to sleep and then use Endeavor. So it doesn't take too long, and we managed to take it down without much of an issue. Even though we have a Weedle in our squad right now, it was just part of the tutorial, and we're only going to be using Ilduian and X Pokemon in this run. Once our journey begins in proper, we go ahead and catch ourselves a Sparkowl, as well as a Yemen. We make our way over to Warf City, where it is completely engulfed in flame. The townfolk call for Aster, who seems like he's probably a big deal because he has a Suicune. It comes out, putting the flames out, and everybody remains calm. It turns out that our father was some sort of scientist. The Ildu region is infested by Pokemon from somewhere called the Xenoverse, which is basically like the Dark Dimension from Zelda. And Aster is researching ways to contain these Pokemon. He knows that one of these Pokemon is responsible for the trouble in the city, and he wants our help capturing it. So we head over to the beach to find out more. But before that, damn, Nurse Joy. Over on the beach, we're introduced to our first X-Pokemon, Elekid. I love that whenever you go into a boss battle in this game, we get these cool little art pieces. Anyways, after a little work, we go ahead and capture the Elekid in a Xenoball. After that, Aster recommends that we compete in the gym challenge to get as strong as possible, and for us to help with his research and capture as many X-Pokemon as possible on our journey. And now it's time for us to take on Basil and his grass Pokemon. I love that this game has the Gen 6 and 7 battle intros whenever you're fighting up against a trainer or a boss Pokemon. He starts off by sending in his Morlo, and we're able to take it down in just 1 Ember. When his A Spiritomb X comes out, things get a little bit more dicey. We do a decent amount of damage with Ember, but then we get confused, smacking ourselves in the face. After that, a Grass Knot does absolutely massive damage. Who would have thought that this little guy is so chunky? Swapping over into our Sparkowl, a Vine Whip doesn't do too much damage, and we return with a Peck, getting him down to about 30%. After that, another Grass Knot goes ahead and gets us down to just 10 HP, and he heals back up a bit. After KOing our Sparkowl, we go ahead and send in Elekid. While he does manage to get us down to just 13 HP, after we manage to land a couple of hits, we take him out, and with that, we've earned our first badge. Next up, we run into Mr. Briny, who takes us over to an island to get something from one of Aster's employees. But did you say Mr. Briny took you there? Mr. Briny's been dead for 300 years. Then he gives us our HM glove. Next up, we find ourselves on a ship with a seasick old captain because every Pokemon game needs a seasick old captain. But then we're attacked by a school of Sharpedos. We crash on an island to meet Pinocchio, and then our Spark Owl turns into a Shockbird. We eventually make our way back to the SS Comet where a school of Sharpedo, led by a Sharpedo X, challenge us to a battle. And we capture it, because that's what you do. On our way to the next gym city, we run into a Blingrim, a Reindeer, and a Hikalu. Just outside of Neutron City, we run into this robot that's arguing with the scientist, who goes ahead and gives us an earring. Once we're in Neutron City, we run into this girl who looks a lot like the female protagonist of the game. But it's probably just a coincidence. She helps us take on this Team Dimension Grunt, and we are now introduced to the villains of the game. She introduces herself as Alice, and we also meet her Pikachu X. It also seems like she has a wicked crush on you, like, immediately, which is fine story-wise, but it's just a little odd because it's the opposite gender protagonist sprite, so it's like I'm in love with my sister. And there's already enough movies about that. It turns out that the entire city is actually a university, and Team Dimension's taken over the place because they're looking for an artifact. We eventually work our way into the library where we go ahead and run into Daft Punk. Sergeants A and B seem to be in charge here, and Ginger joins us in the library to take them on in a double battle. But for whatever reason, no matter what we do, we can't touch their pawnyards, and we both go down in a you need to lose this scenario. Just when all hope seems lost, there's a flash of red light, and a rock behind them in a display case begins to glow and react with the earring that scientist gave us earlier. It turns out it's something called the Earth Core, and it somehow produces a bracelet that we can give to our Tri-Shout. Once we do, our Tri-Shout goes ahead and digivolves into Tri-Shout. And it's at that point we can go ahead and take care of both these pawnyards like they're, pawnyards. And Team Dimension leaves the city. And now it's time for us to take on the second gym. Our Yemen also evolves into Kung Fu. Now that Team Dimension's been taken care of, Alice meets up with us back outside, and she wants to battle against us. She starts off by sending in her Shockbird, and we send in Tri-Shout. Going for a Fire Fang, we get it way down into the red, as a Spark KOs us because it takes me almost this entire game to remember that sound is weak to electricity. Sending in our own Shockbird, we finish it off with a Spark of our own. Out next is her Pikachu X, who's actually a Fairy type, not electric, as we go for a Spark, getting the Paralysis. It spams a couple of quick attacks against us, getting us down to about half, but we manage to take it out after a few sparks. And with that, we defeat Alice. After we get through the gym challenge, it's now time for us to take on Ginger and his fighting Pokemon. His first Pokemon out is Pansimian, so we go ahead and send in our Reindeer. A Heart Stamp does basically no damage at all. So we go ahead and switch over to Fairy Wind, doing still not a lot. Switching into Sockbird, we managed to take him down after a couple of pecks while getting down just below 50% ourselves. Pikumuku X comes in next, and I love that this thing looks like a football. And I also love his big old fist that throws some rocks at us. A Shock gets it way down into the red, and we go ahead and swap out, sending in our Kung Fu. Going for a Stab Fake Out, we get it back down to about 50% after a heal, and a Force Palm finishes it off. His final Pokemon, Hawlucha, comes in, so we go and swap into our Sharpedo. And after 2 Aqua Jets, we take it down, earning our Match Badge. Over in the next town, we run into this Edgelord, and he challenges us to a battle. He introduces himself as Trey, and he calls us a noob despite the fact that he only has 1 Pokemon. It only takes our Kung Fu a couple hits to take him out, and you know what, Trey? I'm gonna call you Rando. Welcome to the game, Xeno Rando. In a nearby forest, we fight Galvantula X, and you all need to live with this art for the rest of your lives. And the next Pokemon that we capture that we actually end up using is this cute little Chigami. I love it. Another thing I really like about Xenoverse is that each of the cities is not only super diverse, but they all seem to be like their own countries. Vanilla literally runs a fantasy kingdom in the modern times, and it is hilarious how demanding she is. But our battle for our 3rd gym badge is underway, and she starts off with her Mimikyu. All we manage to do is break his disguise while Mimikyu gets us down to about 50%, and then she goes ahead and swaps out, sending in her Smirgle X. One Jet Strike from our Tri-Shao, however, is more than enough to take it down. Out next is Slurmpuff, which after another Jet Strike we get down way into the red. And then she goes ahead and swaps out into her Mimikyu for, some reason, who we can Oko. Her Slurmpuff then comes back in, and then she goes ahead and takes a turn to heal it up, but then after another 2 Jet Strikes, we manage to take her down and earn our Sugar Badge. While taking care of Team Dimension and picking up a fossil, we go ahead and evolve our Shockbird into a Harrowak. Once we reach Ishtar City, we can see that everybody in the town besides us and one other guard are completely brainwashed. They've been gathering up food for a Gengar X who's taken over the city. Furious that we didn't bring him any berries, he goes ahead and challenges us to a battle. We start off with Reindeer, but after our first hit does barely anything, we go ahead and send out our Harrowak instead. A Steel Wing does decent damage, but a Psychic from the Gengar gets us way down into the red on one hit. Pivoting into Sharpedo, a Dragon Breath brings us down to just 3 HP, and a Psychic KOs us. This thing is no joke. Sending in Tri-Shot and another Dragon Breath gets us down in just 1 shot, and it wasn't even a crit. Sending in Kung Fu, a Stab Fake Out does a lot of damage, bringing his first health bar down pretty low. And then going for a knockoff, we knock off his first health bar. With Harrowak back in, he immediately goes in just to die, and we send Reindeer in. We alternate between Wish and Draining Kiss for a little while, but we're not really getting anywhere, so we go ahead and revive our Kung Fu to get ready to come in for another Fake Out. Eventually we go down, and we send in our Kung Fu, getting a really good hit in with a Stab Fake Out. Taking another opportunity, we go ahead and use Revive on our Reindeer, because it's the only one of our Pokemon that can really take a hit from this thing. Once a Psychic takes our Kung Fu down, we go ahead and send Reindeer back in, and then at this point, it's just a matter of keeping it alive the best we can while doing some chip damage to the thing. And we go back and forth with this thing for a long time. But eventually, we do manage to take it down, and the infuriated Gengar leaves the city, releasing its mind control on everyone else. And then we meet Nufar. How you doing? I love the Empoleon crown. She lets us know that we should go and meet her grandfather, who's one of the 4 cardinals of the region, and that he's the only one that'll be able to prepare us for the battles that we'll have to face. And while fighting our way through Gravity Tunnel, our little kite turns into a Hanchen. After making our way through an active volcano, we run into Abraham, who's one of the 4 cardinals of Ildu. The cardinals are essentially the kahunas of this game. Abraham recognizes us as Versal's son and says he's going to help us train our Tri-Shout to attain our next level of our evolution. He then goes ahead and tells us about the story behind the Ildu region. There once was a mighty Pokemon named Vacuum. Vacuum ruled over the universe after Arceus had created it. Eventually this Pokemon split into 2 different halves, one of light and one of dark. Luxflon, the being of light, protects our physical world. And Dragolis, the Lord of Darkness, is in charge of the Xenoverse. And our 3 starter Pokemon at the beginning of the game were created to act as kind of like a bridge between those 2 worlds. However, Dragolis denied them, and they came to live on Earth with us. Dragolis and his ex-Pokemon have slowly been coming into the material world, causing havoc and destroying things. And because we have one of those starter Pokemon, it's up to us to restore balance between the 2 worlds. And he's going to teach us how to do it. I'm sure that I'm missing a lot of the details. This was a lot of information to give us all in one shot, but the basic idea is that Team Dimension wants to destroy the Xenoverse, and Aster and our father were working on trying to find a way to incorporate those Pokemon into our world because they deserve to exist. And that is the conflict of the game. Abraham then brings us to a weird red pool where we get actually sucked into the Xenoverse. And it's there that we meet our dark half, our alter half. And he's a lot more talkative than we are. After battling him and his shiny Tri-Shout, we go ahead and unlock the blue earring of the Xenoverse. We then go ahead and give our new bracelet to Tri-Shout, who digivolves one more time into this awesome quadruped. With huge power, okay buddy. The energy of the Xenoverse is proving to be too overwhelming, and we need to battle him to calm him down. After our battle, we do manage to calm Tri-Shout down, and Gengar pops up just to say that he's upset that we managed to do this. And with that, we've unlocked this new, awesome, powerful form. And check out this Dragon Eevee, by the way. Scaleon is a super cool design. But alright, let's go back for our gym badge. And now it's time for us to face off against Nufar for our 4th gym badge. She starts off with this Birigiri, and we go ahead and send in our Kung Fu. Starting off with the stab fake out, we do some decent damage to it. But after we go back and forth for a little bit, I get KO'd by a critical spark. Setting in Hanshin, I go ahead and take another spark, and then we KO it with Dragon Rage. When her own Hanshin comes out, we go ahead and swap into Reindeer. And Reindeer and Hanshin go back and forth for like literally 5 minutes. And just when I think I'm finally got her down, she heals back up to full. And eventually, my little deer goes down. I go ahead and send in Harawak, who does some decent damage, but then we get Dragon-tailed out and our Sharpedo gets dragged in. And I do what I probably should have just done in the first place and Ice Fang this thing for the KO. Up next is her Melodic, and 2 Shadow Claws get it way down into the red, but for some reason this thing's Scald is absolutely annihilating me, even though it's not very effective. And we go down. Sending our Harawak back in, a Spark goes ahead and takes her down. This then leads into her ace, Confronting X, who looks kind of like a Tapu Fini, and I really like the design. We go for a Spark, doing about 30% damage on the first hit, and an Ancient Power knocks us all the way down to just 5 HP. Swapping out, sending in our Hanshin, he sees the KO with Scald and goes for it, but fortunately for me, I have dry skin and I get healed back up to full. And then at that point, it only takes 2 more Dragon Rages for us to take down the Confronting, and with that, our title badge. While roaming through the desert, we pick up this Pekabone. We run into Team Dimension in the canyon, harassing this Ponyta. This is where we're introduced to Dahlia, who's another one of the bosses. She convinces the mother that the only way to defend her foal is by fighting us. But Trey shows up just in time to talk a bunch of smack to her, A and B, and then make friends with this horse. And now our new rando is officially a horse girl. And I'm also pretty sure that we're becoming best friends. Once we enter Westar, it's incredibly obvious that this place is like super haunted. As we approach this very inviting bar with a Toro skull on the front of it, we're interrupted by this blue-haired lady. She introduces herself as Minta, the leader of Geist, the Ghost Emergency and Ignition Suppression Team, and the totally not the Ghostbusters. Not only are they ghost fighters, but they're also part-time firefighters. Once again, not Ghostbusters, not in a firehouse, don't worry about it. She introduces us to the rest of her team, including a Blastoise with artificial cannons, and honestly, that's a really cool thing. Salem, who's definitely not named after for that cat. Will, who's a literal child and probably shouldn't be a firefighter and probably also shouldn't be a ghost hunter. And then Chrysler, who's 100% not Sophocles. We agree to help them deal with their haunting if they'll help us deal with the Team Dimension grunts that are blocking us from entering the gym. And so we set off to bust some ghosts, and to feel real good about doing so. After we enter the bar and do a little bit of exploring, we find that Salem has actually been possessed by whatever's haunting the bar. Chrysler, recognizing that he's the weakest trainer out of everybody, goes ahead and takes Salem's place in the possession using one of his devices. And after we defeat him and his Pokemon, our reindeer goes ahead and evolves into a Rendigo. And I was super excited about this evolution until I found out that it has Defeatist. As we continue to explore the bar, each member of Geist is possessed by the ghost, forcing us to fight them. And each time we break the possession spell, we help them overcome some sort of issue they've been dealing with. It's actually a really cool quest, and I really liked it a lot. We also learn about the history of the bar and the city itself. The Wild Bull Saloon was once a thriving part of the community, but once people found out that it was haunted, it scared people away, forcing the bar to go out of business. And eventually the ghost became the monster that everybody thought it was. With the Ghost Weekend, the members of Geist are able to come together, overcome their issues, and defeat it, freeing Minta and Buster. And we head back to the firehouse to celebrate. Before facing off against Caspar for our next gym badge, our Pekapone goes ahead and evolves into a Requiem. Out of their partner, now it's time for us to face off against Caspar and his ghost Pokemon. Starting things off by sending in Lampet, we go ahead and send in Hanshin. Going for a Waterfall, we go ahead and get it way down into the red before he goes ahead and heals up. And then after another 2 attacks, we take down his first Pokemon. Howdy y'all, out next is Cacturne X. Anyways, we go for a crunch, doing about 60% damage to it, and he responds with a brick break, doing about 30%. For some reason, I decide to go for a Dragon Rage and not for a crunch, and I leave him down into the red with a Shadow Ball taking us just below half. Finishing him off, one more crunch takes the big guy down. Polysand is his third Pokemon, and we do about 50% with a crunch, and he grabs the KO with a Shadow Ball. Swapping in the Sharpedo, one more Shadow Claw takes him down. Scrapasmos is his final Pokemon, and honestly, I kind of love the Frankenstein thing he has going on here, but it only takes one Shadow Claw from our Sharpedo to put this guy to bed. And with that, y'all, we get ourselves a Despair Badge. And it wouldn't be a Wild West town without a train heist. While heading south to take the Qzar Express, we run into Team Dimension, and Dahlia is hijacking this train, because apparently it's the only way to travel. So Alice and I hop aboard, and after fighting our way through the dark, we run into Aster, who's also on the hijacked train. Eventually, we fight our way through until we run into this guy. This is Victor. It turns out he's our father's research partner, the leader of Team Dimension, and the owner of the Tyranitar that we saw in our dreams. As all these realizations come flashing back to us, our alter self takes over our body. Trijot responds to our anger and is about to unleash a Biju Ball big enough to absolutely destroy the train. That's when Aster steps in, having his Suicune freeze the whole place. Aster and Alice then stay behind to take care of A and B, and we move forward to take on Victor. On top of the train, we run into Victor and his Tyranitar. And this is where Dahlia steps in, challenging us to a battle. She starts off by sending in her Gloom, and we send in our Tri-Shout. Taking it down in just one Fire Punch, she goes ahead setting in Vespiquen as her next Pokemon. An Akaberry prevents the Oko, and she responds with a Power Gem, taking us down a little bit. One more Fire Punch, however, is all it takes, as she goes ahead and sends in her Ace Scoville. A Dark Pulse gets us down to just 14 HP, and we bring it down to just below half as well, but we need to swap out. Setting in our Chigami, I'm not exactly sure why I did this, as we go ahead and get Oko'd. Setting in our Harrowak, we go for a Drill Peck, get the KO, and with that, we've defeated Dahlia. And our Chigami also evolves into the majestic Gridako. Having failed Victor, Dahlia steps back. Victor then has his Tyranitar digivolve into a Tyranitar X, who unleashes a blast powerful enough to send us to Limbo? Are we dead? Huh. It's here that we have another conversation with our alter self, and he agrees to help lend his power to us and give us control back of our body. But if we mess up one more time, he's taken over for good. When we wake up, the train's been destroyed, and we're outside with Aster and Alice. It turns out the Team Dimension had also captured Gengar X. Aster wants to take him back to the lab to run some experiments on him, but we decide to break him out, and he's so thankful that he doesn't even try to kill us this time. Our next step is Hyperion City, where we get to attend a Wallace Daddy concert live. But many of the fans in attendance ate something that doesn't agree with them, and they all quickly leave. It doesn't take too long for us to realize that this giant poison-type Slurmpuff is the culprit in getting everybody sick. Wallace calls Geist because of that one thing that happened that one time in that one movie that wasn't Ghostbusters, only for all their weapons to fail because it's not a ghost. So I guess it's up to us to take this bad boy down. Anyways, after defeating the Slurmpuff, it becomes friends with Wallace Daddy, and now it's time for us to take him on for our 6th gym battle. Sending in Arbok as his lead Pokemon, we start things off with our Requiem. Going for a Boomerang, we take it down in just one shot. Up next is his Scrivroom, who manages to do some massive damage to us with a crit Iron Head, and we take him way down into the red. Swapping and sending on our Harrowak, he goes ahead and heals back up. On the following turn, he goes ahead and uses Baton Pass, taking his 2 speed boosts and giving it to Noivern, who we managed to take down to about 40% after a Thunderbolt. It starts spamming a move called Subwoofer, which I assume automatically flinches us because it takes a couple of turns before we can finally finish it off with another Thunderbolt. Sending in Pyroar as his next Pokemon, we take the opportunity to heal up, and then he goes ahead using Flamethrower, bringing us down to about 30%. Going for another Roost, we can go ahead and resist a Hyper Voice, following up with a Thunderbolt, taking it down in one shot. Daddy's new Slurmpuff comes in, and we go ahead bringing it down just below half of the Thunderbolt, and I'm as shocked as everybody else here to see that I got taken out with a Venoshock. I'm not even poisoned. Quadraco comes in doing a lot less than I expected him to do with a nice slash, as Slurmpuff goes ahead and uses Draining Punch on us. We trade back and forth for a little while until Daddy uses the second potion, healing Slurmpuff back up to full. I go ahead and swap into Hanshin, and after powering up with one Dragon Dance, it uses Toxic on us, but we take it out with one crit Dragon Tail. Gavroom comes back out, flinching us with this stupid subwoofer move, so it's time for us to go ahead and swap out, sending in our Kung Fu. After going for a fake out followed by a high jump kick, we KO his last Pokemon, and with that, we've earned our beat badge and defeated the daddy. Next up, after making a quick stop in Durando Village and meeting Ruda, we run over to a temple that's dedicated to Shylian. In addition to being leaders in the Ildu region, it's up to the 4 Cardinals to protect gates to the Xenoverse in their respective areas, and Victor's here to steal the energy for himself. It also turns out that our best friend, New Rando, is sick of playing second fiddle to us as the Chosen One. So he's partnered back up with Team Dimension in order to take the power of the Xenoverse for himself and Sabald. After going through the same ritual that we went through back in the volcano, Trey has a new power and a new form for Sabald, and with this newfound power, Team Dimension leave, heading to the next gate. After we find our way to Vegas City, we head over to the Sunshine Circus, where it's actually our 7th gym challenge. I really like the way they designed a lot of the gyms and the gym tests in this game, but if I went into detail on every single one of those, the video would be way too long. It turns out that in the gym leader's absence, Gengar X actually took over the circus because he wanted to have some fun with humans. After defeating his borrowed Pokemon in a battle, the real gym leader returns. And once Gengar realizes that the party's over, he goes ahead and leaves. And now it's time for us to take on Henna and her fire Pokemon. She starts off by sending in her Rapidash, and I go ahead and send in our Hunjin. Setting up a single Dragon Dance, we go ahead and go for a Waterfall, getting the Yoko. Out next is Incineroar, and even though we get flips on the first turn and have our attack lowered, it only takes one Waterfall to take the big cat down as well. This leads into her Goom Bear, and I absolutely love this design, but once again, one and done, baby. When Toxapex X comes in, it still only takes one Waterfall to get down. And this is an interesting thing about us not doing a Nuzlocke for once. I am way over leveled on specifically Hanshin. I don't know what its XP gain is here, but it is on such a higher level than any of my other Pokemon. Her Pyroar manages to take a couple of hits and heal up, but eventually we do manage to get a crit and the KO, and with that, we've earned our 7th badge, the Brand Badge. After the battle with Henna, we run into her grandfather's son outside the circus, where he shows us the old gym in Vegas City. It turns out the original gym leader here left for Kanto some time ago, and nobody's been able to complete the gym challenge since. I feel like Sun knows a little bit more than he's letting on about us being the Chosen One, and he goes ahead and recommends that we take a plane ticket over to Kanto to visit everybody's favorite electrifying gym leader. When we get to Vermilion City, we find Lieutenant Surge surrounded by the trash cans he loves so much. In Xenoverse, Lieutenant Surge is sporting a metal arm, a really cool mustache, and a bunch of steely Pokemon. He starts in by sending his Bling Grudge, and we start off with Hanshin, but then immediately pivot into Requiem, who goes down immediately to a crit Iron Head. Swapping into our Tri-Shout, a single Flamethrower KOs the Big Topper. His next Pokemon, Magnezone, comes in, and once again, one and done. And the same result for both Clink and Aggron thanks to the burn. His ace Pokemon, Raichu X, comes in, and I absolutely love this design on the flying Raichu, but once again, we get the Yoko, and with that, we've earned our 8th and final badge, the Honor Badge. Lieutenant Surge then gives us a little bit of his backstory. Before whatever Pokemon War had been going on, it turned out that he's from Ildu and he had been an Ilduian gym leader over there. After the war, he came over to Kanto to start at the Vermilion Gym. It was there that he joined up with Team Rocket and Giovanni and helped to train new Team Rocket recruits. After Team Rocket was dismantled by both Red and Gold, he then acted as a mercenary going back into war, where his Raichu as well as the rest of his squad met an unfortunate end. But that's when he met up with Team Dimension. They were able to save his Raichu and give him a new metal arm. But after seeing the enhancements that they had made to his Raichu, he ran off, coming back to the Kanto Gym, where he's remained in exile ever since. He thanks us for listening to his story, and he lets us know where Team Dimension's hideout is back in Vegas City. It turns out Team Rocket is not the only evil organization that likes to hide their bases under casinos. And I think we'll see why in a little while. Back in Vegas City, we run into Alice and Aster again, where they're also looking for the Team Dimension hideout. It's pretty obvious it's somewhere in the city because there's Team Dimension grunts literally all over the place. After finding a really cool poster with a rocket ship on it, we discover that this is where the base is. Who knew? After fighting our way through their secret base, we run into Rando 2 Altered Edition. Empowered by the Xenoverse, Trey and his Sabolt are more powerful than ever, and they challenge us to a battle. Starting off with the Kaima Ooze, it goes ahead and schools up into a giant Rat King a lot like Wishy Washy does. With our Hanshin in, we immediately go for a Waterfall, reducing it back to its small rat form. After taking basically no damage from a beat up, his Citrus Berry goes ahead and heals him up just enough to take on his big boy form again. But we're able to take it down after another hit. Next up is his Fatal, and we go ahead and swap into our Tri-Shout as a Poison Jab does some decent damage to us and gets the poison. A Sucker Punch takes us down just below half as we go ahead and knock it out with a Primal Scream. His own Requiem comes in next, so we're going to go ahead and swap out, setting Hanshin back in again. With a Waterfall, we get it way down into the red as a Drill Run gets us to about 50%. After Trey heals up, we manage to get a higher roll in the second hit, taking it out. Next up is Scizor, and we go for a Crunch, getting it down to about half, as an X Scissor brings us down almost into the red. Swapping into Harrowak, we're able to resist his X Scissor, and the Thunderbolt is more than enough to take the guy down. With Sabolt as his final Pokemon, we go ahead and go for a Thunderbolt because honestly, I don't know what type this thing is, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. And a Thunderbolt of his own brings us down to just 40 HP, so we go ahead and swap into our Requiem. A Drill Run takes him down pretty low, and he goes ahead and heals up on the next turn. And after we get him down to about half again, he swaps out into his Rapidash because I guess I forgot that he actually has this Pokemon. Where this thing manages to connect with a Hurricane. Son of a gun, and Requiem goes down. Setting in our Garatico, we go ahead and set up a Swords Dance, where he manages to get another crit Hurricane, and we hit ourselves in Confusion afterwards? You gotta be kidding me. Setting in our Harrowak, we can go ahead and get the Oko with a Thunderbolt, leading back into Sabolt. After spamming Roost a bunch of times, we go ahead and go for a Steel Wing, doing a lot less damage than I anticipated, and we go down. Finally, sending in our Kungfer, we go ahead and go for a Power-Up Punch, KOing the Sabolt, and with that, we defeat Alter Trey. And he returns back to the Rando that everybody loves. Such a nice young boy. After our battle, Trey reveals the Team Dimension is actually on their way to the moon, where their second, even more secret base has a way to connect with the Xenoverse. On our way up there, Trey reveals himself to be a cyborg, which I never saw coming with all that metal stuff and the scanny eyes and all the other things he's done throughout the game. But Aster and Alice both seem pretty surprised. But anywho, once we're up on the moon, we have to battle against S, who's a combination of A and B, and their really neat B-Sharp X, and then we also have a rematch against Dahlia before we ultimately find Victor in the control room, where he reveals that his scepter has the ability to block an individual's Pokeballs, and he's programmed them for Aster's balls because Aster's the only one he sees as a potential threat. But little does he know that I now have all 8 badges, and therefore, I'm a threat. And the battle begins. His first Pokemon is Kricketune, who manages to hold on thanks to a Focus Sash, but after another hit, we take it down. Next up is his Tyranitar X, so we go ahead and swap into our Requiem, who's able to tank a Rock Slide pretty easily. Going for a Drill Run, we do about 25% damage, and he responds with a Leech Life, absolutely decimating us. We go ahead and send in Hanshin, and after 2 Dragon Dances, we're down to about half after a Rock Slide, and we get him down way into the red. Fortunately for us, we managed to get the flinch, and after he heals up on the next turn, we can take him down with another. Just deciding to go with it, we go ahead and use an Outrage, KOing his final 3 Pokemon. With Victor defeated, he has no choice but to show us the Versal. As we make our way down the hallway to what we expect to be our father's cell, we find him sitting behind a desk, looking out the window. He greets us casually, as if nothing is out of place. He reveals that he is the commander of Team Dimension, and has been here of his own accord the entire time. He staged the entire event 10 years ago when we chose our starter because he knew that they were the key, and he was hoping that we would be the chosen ones powerful enough to unlock the gate to the Xenoverse. Additionally, he reveals himself to actually be Silver, the son of Giovanni. After the fall of Team Rocket, your mother and father left Johto, taking on the new names of Clover and Versal, to start a new, more simple life. However, after the fall of Team Rocket, Giovanni began to research interdimensional travel, which goes along with the plots of Team Rainbow Rocket and Ultra Sun and Moon. But when Giovanni eventually made his way to the Xenoverse, he met his end. He asked for our terrestrial and Xenoverse core so he can open up a great gate into the Xenoverse to avenge his father. And this is where our battle begins. Silver starts off by sending in a Crobat, and we send our Garatico in. After setting up 3 Swords Dances, we go ahead and go for a Night Slash, bringing him way down into the red. On the next turn, he heals up, and we go for another Night Slash, and on the following turn, he goes ahead and takes himself out with our Rough Skin. Out next is Entei, so we go ahead and swap into Harrowak, who takes about 50% from a Flamethrower. We try to go for a Thunderbolt, but he calls our play, sending in Rex Scream instead, so our Thunderbolt gets resisted. Taking the opportunity to use Roost, he goes ahead and using Shadow Bone, bringing us just below 50%. We heal up again as he goes ahead and going for another Shadow Bone, lowering our defense. After trading for another round, we realize that this is a losing battle, so we go ahead and swap into Kungfer. An Earthquake brings us down to about a third, and we go ahead going for a Power-Up Punch, bringing him down into the red, with a Foul Play taking us out on the next turn. Swapping the Tri-Shot, we go for a Primal Screen, taking the bird down. He swaps into Feraligatr, and we go ahead and swap into Hanshin, and we actually get OHKO'd by an Outrage. I cannot believe his Feraligatr has that. Knowing a second Outrage is coming, we go ahead and send our Garatico back in, using the opportunity to heal up. Going for another Swords Dance, he goes ahead and uses the Waterfall, but on the following turn, we can take him out with a Play Rough. His Entei comes back in, so we swap back in the Tri-Shot so we can resist a Sacred Flame. And on the following turn, we go for a Primal Scream, taking him just below half. And one more takes him down. His Weavile comes in next, and he goes ahead and uses a Mega Evolution, but it's not enough as a Flamethrower takes the big guy down. And with that, we've defeated our father, Silver. Silver reveals that this was his plan the entire time, as he has Shylion and Shulong held captive. Their energy along with our battle is more than enough for him to open up his great Xenoverse gate to head in and take revenge for his father's death. As he departs, he leaves our grandfather's Mewtwo X to contend with us. Sending in our Requiem, it turns out that he is Protean, going for a Draining Punch, bringing us way down into the red as we do barely anything before getting taken out on the following turn. Setting in our Kungfer, we go for a Fake Out, and then he changes into a Ghost type, and we avoid doing anything to either of us, and on the following turn, he uses another Draining Punch to OHKO us. Setting in our Hanshin, we go ahead and start spamming Dragon Dance, alternating between healing up and stacking up our attack and speed. Once we get a few stacks, we go for a Crunch, bringing him way down to only 2 more HP bars remaining. And on the next turn, he turns himself into a Fire type, so we go ahead and finish him off with a Waterfall. With Mewtwo defeated, Alice and Trey catch up with us in the main room. Trey reveals that he's known the entire time what the plan was, and that he apologizes for not being straight with us. Ultimately, we all follow suit into the portal because we need to put a stop to his plan before it's too late. Following Silver through a cave, we go ahead and run into Gengar, who makes a comment about how those 4, referring to the Cardinals, must be having a tough time back on Earth with the Xenoverse invasion. And he has a good laugh at the prospect of humanity ending. We make our way to the mountain summit, where Silver is facing off against Dragolisk. But with our father going down in an instant, we go ahead and take on the demigod of the Xenoverse. I am going to skip this part of the battle since it's an automatic lose situation, and that's when Luxflon in a flash of light comes in, subduing Dragolisk. Now significantly weakened, we can go ahead and battle Dragolisk, and we manage to gain the upper hand. However, the clashing energies of Luxflon and Dragolisk go ahead and combine into a destructive shell that we now need to face off against. Without the two of them keeping balance with one another, both Earth and the Xenoverse will be destroyed. And this is where we encounter our Ultra Self again. After combining our powers together, our Tri-Shout evolves one more time into its awesome astral form. And with this new form, we're able to take this big ball of energy down. With Luxflon and Dragolisk separated once again, it goes ahead and opens up a portal so we can escape back to Earth. But the only way to stop Dragolisk's onslaught of Earth is for someone to stay behind and take it out. And this is when Trey steps up and proves that he is the ultimate rando. Goodbye, best buddy. I'll see you in the next life. And with a flash of light, we return to Earth. and to our home, where we are a happy family once again. Silver lets us know that we got a letter in the mail inviting us to take on the 4 Cardinals at Mount Zodiac. As the Chosen One, it's our responsibility to lead the fight against extra-dimensional threats, and this is our final test. So we make our way to Mount Zodiac. But before we face off against the 4 Cardinals, why don't we take a quick look at our team. First up, we have Requiem with Shadowbone, Night Slash, Foul Play, and Drill Run. Harrowak with Thunderbolt, Steel Wing, Roost, and Drill Peck. Tri-Shout with Flamethrower, Jet Strike, Starburst, and Crunch. Kung Fu with Close Combat, Fake Out, Power Up Punch, and Knockoff. Hanshen with Waterfall, Crunch, Outrage, and Dragon Dance. And Garadako with Sacred Sword, Night Slash, Swords Dance, and Play Rough. Our first challenge is against Cardinal Chuda and his Psychic Pokemon. He starts off by sending in Sigilif, and we send in our Requiem. Hitting us with an Air Slash, we go ahead and use Night Slash, bringing him way down into the red. On the following turn, he heals up, and we go for another Night Slash, bringing him down once again. After healing up once again, another Air Slash brings him back down, but not before we get flinched, taking 2 more Air Slashes before we can take it down. His Tapu Fini X comes in next, hitting us with a Dark Pulse for barely anything. But our Night Slash also does very little. We go ahead and take the opportunity to heal up, but not before going for a Night Slash, bringing her down to about 50%, and another 2 ultimately taking it down. Up next is Claydol, who gets down in 2 Night Slashes, and we get down pretty low after an Earth Power. His Persage comes in going for a Fake Out, getting us down to just 28 HP, but we do outspeed on the following turn, getting the Oko. Out next is this final Pokemon Nebura, going for a Night Slash. We bring him down just below 50%, but we do get taken out with a Rock Slide. Sending in our Hanshin, we go ahead and get the Revenge Kill with a Waterfall, and with that, we defeat Cardinal Chua. Our next opponent is Neva and her Ice Pokemon, and she starts off by sending in an Avalog. With Tri-Shout in his new Astral form, we go ahead and get an Oko on just about every single one of her Pokemon, leading into her Walrein, who ultimately goes down in 2 after I remember that water is weak to sound. Up third is Peyote and his Flying Pokemon, and we start off with our Harrowak against Skarmory. Skarmory holds on due to its sturdy, but after healing it up, we can take it down in the following round. When Braviary comes in, we get it down to literally 1. I honestly thought it was dead until it uses a Rock Slide, getting us just below half, with us KOing on the following turn. Tapu Koko X comes out third, going for a Knockoff, bringing us down into the red as we go ahead and heal up with a Roost. After getting chopped in the throat, a Thunderbolt finishes it off. His Xatu comes in just to get taken out in 1 as he sends in his last Pokemon, Harrowak, and after trading back and forth once, ours actually goes down. And after sending in our Kung Fu, we go for a Fake Out Knockoff combo, and we defeat Peyote. The final Cardinal we need to face off against is Abraham, who's impressed to see how much we've grown in such a short amount of time. What he should be even more impressed about is my Hanshin, because I go ahead and just set up a couple of Dragon Dances and then absolutely decimate the entirety of his team. And with Abraham's defeat, we have one final challenge, that being Aster, who's wearing like these really cool robes, and it's weird to see him without his hat. Meganium's his first Pokemon, so we go ahead and send in Tri-Shout. However, he goes ahead and pivots into a Drampa, so a Flamethrower does barely anything to him. We go ahead and pivot into our Garadako, but we get O-Code, which is completely unexpected from a Drampa. Sending in our Kung Fu, we go for a Fake Out, doing some good damage to him, and then follow up with a Power Up Punch, getting him down pretty low. But a Draco Meteor Oko's our second Pokemon, and this thing is an absolute monster. Sending in our Hanshin, he goes ahead and swaps out, sending in Garadako, so I need to swap out, and I send Tri-Shout back in. A Flamethrower does manage to take the Big Bird down in just 1. With his Drampa back in, I genuinely don't know what to do here. Setting in Requiem, we go ahead and drink a Draco Meteor, activating our Citrus Berry, getting us back up to about half. Following up with a Night Slash, we only do about a third, and he goes for another Draco Meteor, which obviously this time is going to do a hell of a lot less damage. At this point, we're kind of stuck in with Requiem, so we go for another Night Slash, taking him down to about a third until we get taken out. Since Tri-Shot's probably our most burly Pokemon, we go ahead and send him in. And even though it's not very effective, we can take him out with a Sound Move. Milamute comes in, which is perfect for me because I have Flamethrower and Fire beats Ice. His next Pokemon out is Electabuzz, and I honestly kind of regret picking Tri-Shot even though I love its design so much because I really wanted to use this Pokemon, but I could justify having 2 Fire Pokemon. Upping into Hanshin, predicting an Electric move, we can go ahead and start setting up Dragon Dances since we can resist all of Electaburz's attacks. Going for a Waterfall, Apache Berry saves Electabuzz on this round, but after he heals up, he has no more resistances, so we can take him out on the following turn. His Suicune comes in next, Mega Evolving, and we take it down pretty low, but an Ice Beam does manage to KO our Hanshin. We send in Harrowak, going for a Thunderbolt, ultimately taking the beast down. With Meganium as his only remaining Pokemon, I assume we can just sweep things here with Harrowak, but after 2 Drill Pecks get him way down into the red, a Rock Slide takes down our Harrowak. And this is the way that it should be. Our final Pokemon, our best friend Tri-Shout, against Aster's final Pokemon. And with a single Flamethrower, we managed to take off the rest of its HP, and with that, we ascend. We become the Lumen of the Ildu region. And we've beaten Pokemon Xenoverse. This game was absolutely amazing. I know I'm not the first person to say this. I know that a lot of people have made videos about this game, but I was really blown away with how great this game was. With how in-depth the story was. It was super anime, but I loved every second of it, and I know that I didn't do it justice in this video. But I hope that you all liked the video if you made it this far. If you have, please make sure that you hit that sub button, that like button, and maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what other fan games you'd like me to tackle in the future. But anywho, I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.